Welcome to the Business Owner Spotlight. I'm Stephanie Scheller. This whole series is about finding brilliant business people and then bringing them to you, because what I've learned over the years is that everyone has a story to tell and all those stories have valuable information to share. And I'm kind of excited because this was a Business Owner Spotlight that just popped up on my calendar, which keeps happening more and more lately, which is super cool. And I actually met this lady back in November. She was the keynote speaker for an event that I was speaking at, selling to CEOs. So Janie, thank you for taking time to join us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the invite. Excited.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you, I've done some research here, but our listeners have no clue. Why don't you tell them a little bit about who you are and how you, because you have a good story for how you've gotten to where you are in business.
Sure. Well, obviously, my name is Janie Gonzalez, the web head of CEO. We're one of the original tech startups in San Antonio in 1994. So I'm definitely an internet pioneer. I've been in the industry for quite some time, and we were the first minority woman-owned company to start, who organically has grown to the size that it has. And we're coast to coast, California, just like the Beltway, and Texas. And so we have over 60 employees. We perform work in everything from web development, application development, software development and engineering, and managed services. And of course, a good component of that is IT security. And so, we keep doing what we do best, our core. And through that, I've managed to develop, a personal brand, which is Latina CEO, which is perfect. I think ultimately my experiences as first generation businesswoman and minority, Hispanic, specifically Latina, has really shaped in how I have not only created a personal brand for myself, but is an intricate part of everything that I do, including Webhead.
I love how you first of all, I do want to highlight something she just said there for our listeners who might have missed over that little bomb that just dropped. They keep doing what they do best. So there's all these items they offer, but they keep focusing on what they do best. And I want you guys to really catch that one, because that's a big one. But I want to talk about, you mentioned having the brand and like the you brand, but also the business brand. How do you juggle those two? Because I know a lot of people who lose themselves in one or the other.
Well, I think it's important. I think as you evolve, the reality is that branding is expensive. Unless you're Coca-Cola or Apple, it's really hard to compete against that. But one of the beauties of social media, it allows you to self-brand, right? You have the tools. You're doing it right now, right? Mm-hmm. And so that opportunity allows you to be exposed in a global capacity, but at the same time, develop your own end users, right? Your own community. And that's really why I fell in love with the internet in the early 90s. I mean, as a sociologist, I saw the power of how we were going to live and work and use this technology. That was really where I saw the power. Application development and web development was part of that, but ultimately for me, the vision was how we use it today, right? So how did I do it? I think it's a natural process. When we first started our businesses, it's you, it's who you are. You drive it, you make it. It still is. But I felt it was important that if my company was going to be sold one day as part of our exit strategy, or if I wanted someone to take it over and still be owner of the company, it was important that I separated myself in how I operated the company, as well as for my own creative vibe. It was important that I took something that I learned from it and made it my own, which was really Latina CEO. Right. And it really has become my personal experiences, how I created exceptional opportunities to be where I'm at today. And that being a female minority, being Hispanic minority, was a unique opportunity and challenges in building, and still is today, for Webhead and anything that I do. At the end of the day, I think our experience is unique. If you look at the stats, in the United States, I would say less than 10% of women generate more than $1 million in revenue. If you look at it again, and that's regardless of ethnicity, that's just revenue.
Right.
If you look at how many women minorities are in generating more than $1 million and have an IT company, that's less than 5%.
Right.
And so there's not a lot of us. So that posed a great opportunity. And then it also has posed some very interesting stories and experiences. And so I felt it was important that, I start, building upon that experience and leveraging it. And so to me, I firmly believe there's a CEO in every woman, whether you work at home, you're the CEO of the house, whether you have a small organization or a large corporation, you know, you are your own CEO. And that's really what I like to really talk about, and then provide women opportunities in how to do so and propel them to do so. I think a lot of it is a state of mind. I think the hardest thing about entrepreneurship is that it's very glamorized. And at the end of the day, it's a lot of work. And we need to be a little bit more realistic as women, and what is it that it takes to make it, and kind of change your mindset to win, you know. And it's a whole different playing field if you're out there doing it. It's different. That's all I can say.
Well, and I like that you talked about, you know, being minority woman, like it's an opportunity. I see so many people who are like, well, you know, don't you look at that as a, you know, something you're up against the odds. I'm like, are you kidding with me? No, like, this is great. I have the opportunity to knock stuff, like, really make an impact here.
Well, I've always felt, you know, I think we talk too much. We as minorities, I hear like, we don't have enough money, you know, if we had this, if we have that. I'm a big believer in stop talking about what we don't have and talk about what you do have, and how do you leverage the resources that you have at hand so that you can propel yourself or create your opportunity. And ultimately that mindset is what's going to get you to win, whatever that is for yourself, whether it's a personal goal, a professional goal. If you don't have that winning attitude or that resourcefulness to attack a problem, then you're not going to succeed in any part of your life.
No, I 100% agree. And I like that you're focused on, like, because we're all going to have stuff we don't have. Actually, that's the Tony Robbins TED Talk. That's how it starts. He's like, what did you not have? And one of the politicians was like, I didn't have the Supreme Court. And Tony was like, oh, right. Like, it turned into this whole funny moment because we get focused on that. So I do another knowledge bomb there, guys.
Yeah, sure.
So you've obviously had to go up against some crazy odds at various points. What are some of the big challenges? And plus, if you guys have been around since 1994, I'm sure you've had moments where you've looked around and gone, holy crap, is this it? Are we done? What are some of the big challenges you guys have hit, and how did you handle them? How did you get
I would say that early on, the biggest challenge that faced me was the fact that everybody was like, you know, no one really took you seriously. They took my partner seriously, but they didn't take me seriously. So within my own little world, which was them two and myself, is that I had a clear vision about what we wanted to do and how to get there. But to convince them and to convince others, whether they were bankers or investors, was really challenging. And it didn't happen, frankly, to be honest with you. But what I was able to do was foster credibility with clients and credibility with alternative financing, you know, individuals like microlenders. And it was the foundation for what did I need to do for the next step to build better, you know, finance vehicles to get to the next level and the next level. At the end of the day, I had to work 10 times harder to build credibility for Webhead and myself, and keep taking the next step and the next step. But I think after growing a lot, the first couple of years, sorry about this, my biggest challenge ended up being that when the .com fallout happened, you know, the bubble burst. I don't even know how to use this phone, sorry.
Okay, best interruption we ever had. Someone's cell phone just started going off, and it was like, it was some sort of funny ringtone. So it was like,
well, mine's not even a ringtone. I can't even find the do not disturb thing. Goes to show you, because usually my assistant screens my calls, so I don't know how that one got through. That means someone got through my extension. But what I was saying before the phone interrupted things, I think the second biggest challenge was after the .com fallout, right? The internet bubble burst. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
After that took place, the one thing that I loved about the internet and the World Wide Web is that I got to create my own opportunity, right? And it wasn't based on gender, and it wasn't really based on socioeconomic status. It was just, I got a connection, I got a direct line, I built a website, and I was in business. And it was very, very, I loved it, right? And then all of a sudden, when it all came crumbling down, you know, the market, everything, all the players were men. I think there was only one female that stayed as a player, and it was from Compact at that time. And it was really discouraging that the thing that broke socioeconomic barriers and broke gender barriers, this thing called the internet, this thing called the World Wide Web, ended up being the same place that I started, you know, in many ways. And so I had to really make a decision whether I wanted to stay in the industry or not, knowing that it was going to get tougher from that perspective. And I chose to stay in, and it was really difficult to get out of that debt as well. I had to choose whether I was going to stay in the game, knowing that I was in the hundreds of thousands in debt. And it took me a couple of years to get out of debt, but I stayed in the game. And then, you know, the next couple of years became the beginning of no longer being an upstart, but being a true company. And so, and that's another stage that's important. It's one thing to kind of freelance and have a handful of customers, and then you start peaking and you know that your product and a service, you've kind of, you know, you've proven the concept, and then all of a sudden, you know, there are bigger demands to be more serious about how you're going to conduct business. And so in the middle of proving my concept, it was also the fallout of the economy. And then I had to pick myself up, and then continue to take my company to the next stage. So I've had several economic downfalls, and I've had to weather the storm to be in it or not. And so probably the biggest one was after experiencing some success, the reality of the new landscape was men-dominated funding and men-dominated with the biggest products and services, and we were back to that. But, you know, at the end of the day, I've chosen not to be a victim. I chose to learn from it and decided to press on, and here we are today, almost 25 years later.
That's the way the timing of that all came together. That's a remarkable. Have you ever thought about doing like an autobiography or anything like
I've been asked several times, and I started books, and I'm just like, I have a lot of good stories. It's funny though. I think what happens as you get older, you know, when you're younger, you just do it. You say, I'm just going to do it. As you get older, there's more pressure that you put on yourself for it to be perfect. Yeah. And because it's so personal, I think that sometimes I've missed a lot of opportunities to just do it because it's so personal. I want it to be great. And I think I just need to do it. So it's on my bucket list to get serious this year about it, because I'm not getting any younger.
Well, I've got some ideas for you on that one. We'll have to chat after we're done here. But I was going to ask, so we've undergone this massive shift over the past few years where there's so much more focus put on women and the minorities and business and all this stuff. So are you still finding, like you said, particularly, you know, you had to work 10 times harder to achieve the same stuff. Are you still finding, even with the changing landscape, are you still finding you still have to fight?
Well, I guess for me, what I want to see is how industry responds, right? And that's going to be in the form of loans, VC funding, people in office. I mean, we're just supposedly, right, we're getting buy-in. We won't see those results, really, to be fair, in another decade or so. To really see the impact of that, we can look at all the stats, but unless people are really serious about non-traditional funding and VC funding, and I'm talking big dollars. I mean, still look at the stats for VC funding for minority, and that's African-American and Latinas or Hispanics. I mean, that's like almost non-existing. So, you know, our communities are responding, but what does that really mean? I mean, I can still tell you, as someone who's very active in my community and have been from day one, my colleagues still get a better support and incentive package than I'll ever have gotten. And that is just, again, because I think it's not just about access to money, but it is also access to key decision makers. And if more boards are ran by men, the chances of you getting a project supported or tax incentives are smaller. And yeah, things are at least being talked about, and I'm proud of that, and I'm happy for it. But I just don't think that they're going to be any easier overnight. I think that it's just top of mind, and it is our responsibility to make sure that it isn't trendy, but it actually becomes a norm, And I think that's the area where women need to really stay focused. And that includes voting people out that don't say that they're going to do. And don't be spending money with men. I mean, I think at the end of the day, what I don't see happening is, if you ask me what my client portfolio is, it's not women.
Mm.
And so I think that if women really want to change the conversation versus waiting for men to do that for them, we need to start with each other. And we need to spend money with each other before we look to a male-dominated organization. And if we can't do that, then we're to blame and not them. And that's why they've gotten away with it for years. We're the number one consumers in mostly everything, but not the number one consumer when it comes to investing in women, and not the number one consumer in being each other's client. Unless it's makeup, fashion, it's really rare for a woman to be buying products in IT, for example, or engineering or construction, right? And so I do think that that's an area where we can't blame men for that. We really got to evaluate ourselves and see, how can we improve that?
Yep. Fair enough. Well, we're coming really fast up on the end of our time.
Oh, sure. Sorry. Didn't think I was going to be that philosophical.
Always goes. But I do want to ask this. I ask this every time, and been amazed because everyone has given me different answers.
Sure.
But what's your best piece of advice for other business owners out there?
I say outsource everything but your brilliance. I think as women, it's our tendency to want to do everything. I say do what you do best and get yourself a really good team and hold them accountable. I've been very guilty of outsourcing, but not holding accountability when appropriate, right? But I do think that women need to focus on what they do best and not try to do it all. It's in our nature to do it, and we can multitask extremely well. I can. But if you're going to get to your goals, you need to be very strategic, very deliberate in your actions, and being able to outsource what you don't need to be messing with so that you can reach your goals.
I love that. And I love that you followed up, outsource everything but your brilliance with, and then hold them accountable. Because I think that's a piece that gets skipped a lot. So.
We women, it's hard. It's not in our nature.
Yeah. No.
I do think that it's an area that we all have to improve, including myself. And I'm at my tenure and I still need to improve on it. As a visionary, it's very easy to kind of piece it all together, but then make sure that it's hitting its mark. Mm-hmm. And that's very crucial. When we have to work harder, the last thing that you need is for something not to be in sync, because you really don't have the time or the resources to be wasting money or time.
Mm-mm. Well, this was really awesome. I got like 2 whole pages of notes over here. So thank you so much.
Well, I would love to keep in touch with you. Thank you so much for thinking of me. And I look forward to collaborating with you or continuing the conversation.
Absolutely. So for our listeners out there, this is what it's about. If you know someone just like this, someone with an incredible story to tell, send them my way. Janie's contact information is below. My contact information is below. And just share this out. Let's spread the love a little bit.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for the love. Thank you, guys.
Make it a great week.